But Korkenstein, look, we were talking in the chat, and this is a great topic. And some people are going to be like, oh, he's console warring. No, I'm not. I'm being honest. I'm being fair. I'm being thought-provoking. So we talked about 2025 for Xbox. And they have a unbelievable lineup, even without Fable. Let's just say, for instance, Fable somehow moves into 2026. They could possibly have In Exile's Clockwork Revolution. That's a possibility. Korkenstein said it earlier. State of Decay 3 is also a possibility. Maybe they move Fable out of the way to let these other games breathe. I don't know. We will certainly see. But you know what's super interesting, Korkenstein, is, well, what does PlayStation have in 2025? Well, we know that they have the sequel to the Samurai game that everyone loves. And it looks phenomenal. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's DEI. And listen. They know how to make games over at Sony. They haven't made a lot of them recently, and that's because of different changes. But what is the name of the Samurai game that's
Ghost
coming out
of Yotai?
Yeah, Ghost of Yotai. Thank you, sir. Look, I know, like I said, a lot of people are maybe the Virtual Tomato is coming out. I platinumed. I don't platinum any games. Ghost of Tsushima, I did, and it was a phenomenal experience. Ghost of Yotai, it might be a smaller experience. It might be even considered in size and scope to something like Miles Morales. And if that's the case, oh, you know what? Sign me up. I'll take it. Not a problem. Take my money, please. And Death Stranding 2 is another one, right? That one is, look, it's Kojima. Is the game coming out next year? I sure hope it is. It's going to be exclusive for a little while on PlayStation, which is fine. I'll just wait for the Xbox version. But past those two console first-party exclusives, and they're sizable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from either of them. But they are only two. If you look at what Xbox is doing. You know what's interesting, Korkenstein? We said this in the green room. PlayStation players and their most excitement is not going to come just from Sony. It's going to come from Microsoft and Xbox because they have potentially 4 games launching on the PS5 next year. And we know what those 4 are. Indiana Jones is in the spring. Now, again, that's huge. That's huge because people don't have to buy a PlayStation buy an Xbox or go out and spend money on a rig. They can simply just play on their PlayStation. Good for you guys, right? Awesome. You also have Doom: The Dark Ages, multi-plat, big game. One of the biggest games I would dare say for PlayStation next year, as well as Xbox. You also have potentially, and again, this is just potentially, Starfield. I think Starfield releases next year around the September anniversary of the game being 2 years old. And, again, if you're mad at that, that's just the way the world is working right now. So Starfield could be a launch title sometime in September for PlayStation 5. Will it have pro advancements? Yeah, potentially, right? And if it does, great for anyone who has a pro. But that's not the only one. You got Call of Duty next year. So think about that. Just think about this. Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. The 4 biggest games outside of Ghost of Yotai and potentially Death Stranding 2 are Xbox-owned games on a PlayStation. This world is wacky, for sure. But that is something to think about. Indiana Jones, Starfield, Call of Duty, and Doom: The Dark Ages. 4 monster titles going to PlayStation, potentially, and that is going to make up the talk of the town for Sony next year. That is something really to think about. Again, it's food for thought. It's not console warring. It's just being factual. We don't know if Starfield is coming, but it might. And if they are waiting 2 years to launch it onto PlayStation 5, it's probably going to sell quite a bit. Not that I advocate for it, because, again, I like exclusives staying where they are, but that's not the world that we live in. Korkenstein, let's talk about it, man.
Yeah, it's this is why Xbox is doing the third party stuff. I mean, people can go ahead and be like, "Well, why are they giving PlayStation a chance? They should go for the throat." It's like you don't want any one company, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo, falling out, and where it's only two people. Then you have those two companies controlling the market. We've already seen how PlayStation acts with their consumers, nickel and diming, things like that. Cash grabbing, doing, all these remakes, not really offering anything of substance. And then you have Xbox and, Nintendo that are offering these. I mean, Nintendo's not any better with some of their stuff, and their how they operate as a business sometimes, and the stuff they do towards content creators. But you don't want any one of these companies falling out, and then now you have two controlling the market. Xbox giving PlayStation games is a great thing for gamers. It's a great thing for consumers. It doesn't matter if you're team green, team blue, team red, whatever it is. As a gamer, you are getting the best value for your money if Xbox releases on other consoles. It's not about wiping one company out. And this is why Xbox is doing the third party stuff. They're going to capitalize on a market that is not in desperate need of games, but is kind of a little dry right now. And they see the revenue there, they see the money. They'll go in, and I hope it does really, really well. And they can, it opens up the eyes of PlayStation and maybe Nintendo that, hey, maybe we don't need to just stay in our own ecosystems. We can do more and we can give gamers more by releasing games in other ecosystems. Yeah, for you as a gamer, that's a win. If you want a console war and sit behind something and no, my games need to stay on Xbox, on PlayStation, on Nintendo, rabble, 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 you can do that. That's fine. But what are you really gaining from that as a gamer? You're gaining really nothing for the whole gaming community in that sense. Yeah, it's great. You get to play the games only on your console, but for other gamers that aren't on other consoles, that aren't on your console, now they have an opportunity to try a game. Every developer, wants their games to be played. They want their games to be seen. They want their games to be enjoyed. It's just, this is their baby. They created it, and they don't want people to hide their games. It's an art. This is better for the industry. It's better for us as consumers. So when this kind of stuff happens, we should champion it, and we should be behind the Xbox on giving gamers more games. It's not about gatekeeping and holding back and telling people, nah, my console's better than yours, or that's stupid. What are we, like, five? We still on the playground there? um Let gamers enjoy gamers on the platform they want to. And this is such a great consumer friendly move. So when Xbox does have this kind of stuff, it's a great thing. It's a really, really, really great thing. Champion that. Let them be known that, hey, you're happy as a gamer. You can play the games you want to. And if anything, I think it's sad on PlayStation that they've pigeonholed themselves into this spot to where they can't deliver on these great quality games that they really want to right now. It's the fallout of having these exclusive games on your system and not willing to open up your ecosystem to more gamers. And that's a shame. And if PlayStation keeps following on this route, I can't really see them staying in the console business for longer than 10, 20 years. That's I 100% stand by that. They need to open up. That's just the way the market's growing. Console sales are stagnating, and if PlayStation doesn't start to look at, hey, how can we earn extra revenue, how can we jump into these already established ecosystems and platforms, they won't be around in 2040, 2050. I don't think, as a company. You have to adapt, and they just aren't. And we are already seeing the fallout of it now for the last 2 years. Remakes, barely releasing any first party exclusives, cash grabbing with silly console upgrades that don't really do anything for you. It's sad. So when Xbox kind of does this, it's a great thing, not only for Xbox, but for you as consumers and gamers.
I mean, listen, you're not wrong. Look, I want this to be clear. I don't like the idea of certain Xbox exclusives going over to PlayStation. The same way I find it weird that like something like a God of War or a Horizon would show up on Xbox. Like to me, it's just. But I'm old. I'm the old guard. The new guard is like, listen, we don't care about your feelings, kid. Get out. We're trying to make money, which is what they're doing. Sony is taking a little bit longer. They're walking a little bit slower. They're dragging their heels, so to speak. And Xbox is taking all the arrows. That's just what it is. That's what they've always done. Infinite Umbrella, I want to bring you in on this. Again, this is not console war rhetoric. This is simply just food for thought. Xbox has a slate of games coming out in 2025 from first party that are all exclusive. Now, will they make it to PlayStation at some point? Potentially. But next year, Sony only has 2 games, one of which is Ghost of Yotai, which I am super stoked for. Death Stranding 2, if you like the first one, you're probably going to appreciate DS2. But does that come out next year? I don't know. MLB The Show is guaranteed next year, and that's multi-plat. But just talking about exclusives, those are the 2 that are first party that we know about. Now, could they surprise us and show something off that is coming out next year? It's always possible, but it's unlikely. Their 4 biggest games next year, though, are Xbox first-party games, and I think that is the conversation. Indiana Jones is going to be big. Okay, you saw the previews. You heard my thoughts and theories on it. It is going to be massive, and it's going to be big on PlayStation. You also have Call of Duty at the end of the year, as you did this year, and if it's a sequel to Black Ops 2, it's going to be monstrous. You also have Doom, The Dark Ages, which is a multi-plat, and that is going to be massive on every platform. But you also have the potential, and again, this is the ringer here. Do they finally release Starfield to the masses? I think that they do. I think they wait until September, where it hits its 2-year anniversary. Maybe you get the Starfield, you get this year's DLC, and potentially the new DLC that's rumored for next year. And it's a complete package, the Game of the Year edition for PlayStation.
Okay, so what are the games that are you saying that could possibly go there?
So
besides
next year for PlayStation confirmed is Indiana Jones, Doom: The Dark Ages, and Call of Duty, all Xbox first party. The ringer could be, and I believe it's going to be, Starfield in fall of 2025 for PlayStation, the Game of the Year edition. Again, it's just an opinion. Is it happening? Well, I think it is. I think it's 2 years since it'll be 2 years in September next year since its initial release. And maybe that becomes the running number for exclusives on Xbox that are not first party or Xbox Game Studios to get over there. Maybe those games are 5 years, 6 years. I don't know how they're going to break it down. But I do think it's going to happen next year, and that would be the 4th one. That would be 4 Xbox first-party games that are going to sell really well on a PlayStation compared to, well, PlayStation not having a roadmap, dude. Again, Ghost of Yotai is next year. At least that's what they say. Could that get delayed? Sure. I don't think so, but that's 2025. Now, Death Stranding 2, which is no longer a console exclusive because Kojima basically said so, it is a timed exclusive for PlayStation. Does that come out next year? I don't know. He's notorious for delays, so maybe that gets delayed as well. We'll see. But if you think about it, those 4 games, if it includes Starfield, that is a ridiculous lineup, and they're all Xbox first-party games.
I would just imagine that if Starfield launched over there, this Game of the Year edition over the PlayStation, and it reviewed even better than it did on Xbox, that it would not land well with Xbox gamers. Imagine it land over there and it's like, oh, it's an 88 or something like that.
It's the greatest thing since sliced bread is what you're saying?
All right. Suddenly it's an 88 or a 90 or something like that, while it's an 83 over here. People will be like, oh, see this This is what I'm talking about right here. What I don't like, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything that suggests that Starfield will, but you're not wrong. And I guess in some of that, because Bethesda has been the one that's been, we thought that were kind of like, oh, these were all be Xbox. And all of a sudden it was like, no, they're not. So that could be one. The whole thought was that legacy titles will possibly still go over to other platforms, right? Starfield is not a legacy title. So I still have a thought that it could stay true to Xbox. I don't know. We'll see one way or another.